Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Rick Carter with Delmarva Crafts from beautiful Rock Hall, Maryland. We have a very special guest today here, Miss Jaime Windon of Windon Distilling, Lyon Rum in beautiful St. Michael's, Maryland. Jamie, how you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, like we were talking before we started this, you said it's feeling like spring today, and let's hope so, man. Let's get people back out there and traveling and coming to the shore and visiting your distillery and everything else we have over here. So one reason I want to talk to you today is, we've come through a pretty interesting period here. I shouldn't say come through. We're still working our way through the pandemic and COVID and everything. And we're talking to some local purveyors of spirits and wines and beer and other locally crafted products about how the pandemic has impacted them and their business and that sort of thing. But for our viewers and listeners who may not be familiar with Lyon Rum and what you guys are doing there in St. Michael's, take a minute and give us some background on how you guys got started and what exactly you do.
Absolutely. So we are located here in St. Michael's. We're right in the center of town, luckily and purposely positioned right next door to the St. Michael's Winery and Eastern Shore Brewing. So we completed a little booze trifecta, as it were, when we opened 7 years ago. So for the last better part of 7 years, we have been distilling really remarkable American rum. We do everything from scratch. We bring in Louisiana sugarcane. We do all of the fermentation. We do a classic pot distillation and all of the finishing and infusing and barreling and bottling and labeling right here at our distillery. So we're grateful to be part of this community. When we launched, there was only one other distillery in the entire state 8 years ago, and now there's close to 40. So we were really at the forefront of this wonderful wave of craft distilling that has swept the country and really taken a good bit of the Maryland landscape as well. We're in some really good company with our fellow Maryland distillers, but we are the rum people. We dabbled in whiskey for a few years and played around, kind of nodding our hat, so to speak, to the traditions of Maryland. With Maryland rye and a beautiful American single malt. But about 3 or 4 years ago, we made the decision to stop producing whiskey, solely focus on rum, and it's really paid off. We have a beautiful portfolio of rums. We're one of the few American distilleries that focus exclusively on rum. And last year, despite all of the challenges, we were actually named the #1 craft rum distillery in the United States by the USA Today craft poll. So that was really cool. So we're happily the rum makers of the Eastern Shore.
That's awesome. I did not know that until I was reading some of your info this morning that you guys won that. That is fantastic, and congratulations. But now I got to ask you, I read your bio, and you have traveled all over the world, lived in some very exotic places. How did you come to be in St. Michael's, Maryland, on the beautiful Eastern Shore, distilling rum?
Well, it doesn't sound like it makes a lot of sense, but it does. So I am a Maryland girl at heart. I grew up on what I now understand to be the Western Shore. I thought it was just, Maryland growing up all those years in PG County. I was born and raised in Laurel, Maryland, and I went to school in Baltimore. And I loved every minute of that. But after I turned 21 and graduated, I spread my wings, right? I lived in California and Florida. I lived in London. I traveled to South America and India and all over Europe, and then wound up living in Kenya for a couple of years. My first career was a writer and photographer. And so when you write and when you photograph, it usually takes you to very exciting places. And I was lucky to find myself on a little island off the coast of Kenya for about 2 years, where I worked as a photographer. And of course, ate and drank my way through that wonderful country, as well as many others. And when it came time to come back to the States, St. Michael's was a wonderful option. I'd spent time here as a kid. We would vacation, not so much in Ocean City, as we talked about earlier. We would come to St. Michael's, come by boat, come by car. It's only, it's really only an hour and a half from all of our major cities, DC and Baltimore. And I had also photographed weddings here and done some photography work with the Watermans. So I knew that it was a lovely place,
Mhm.
a great place for re-entry for an expat that had been living on a, semi-deserted island without cars or shoes for a couple of years. And the rest is history for the last 10 years. I've been entrenched in St. Michael's. I admittedly thought it was a pit stop. I thought that I would come here as I readjusted and then see where things took me.
Right.
I ran a bed and breakfast for about 9 months here before starting the distillery. And these days, that's just completely taken over my world. So yeah, I'm very lucky to live in St. Michael's.
So what was the inspiration or the catalyst that made you say, I think I'm going to open a distillery? What triggered you to go, I'm not going to do the B&B thing. I'm going to make booze.
Yeah. So, we were talking about this, we talk about this all the time, that St. Michael's is home to makers, right? It's this idyllic Eastern Shore town, and it gets a lot of attention for being so beautiful, historic. It's the set of many movies.
Mm-hmm.
But really at its heart, it's a place where people have always made things. We have a long shipbuilding tradition here. And right now, the Maritime Museum is still building beautiful ships with a wonderful program. There's farmers working the land, there's watermen working the water, and spirits and wine and beer are a great part of American manufacturing history that has really, ebbed and flowed. And so we know that spirits were distilled here, but it had been many years. So when you look at the landscape of St. Michael's, there's tons of wonderful restaurants, little tiny brewery, winery, and spirits was kind of the missing link. And I've spent a lot of my life in the spirits world. So in addition to being a photographer and a writer, I have been working in hospitality since I was in high school. So bars and restaurants and hotels is where I've really spent most of my career. And so while making spirits was not something that I had previous direct experience, it was a really nice lateral move. And I love learning something new and to really focus on something as narrow as grain to glass distilling, and then even more narrow to hone in on cane to glass and just make rum seemed like the ultimate learning experience. So it's been wonderful.
So I'm going to seize on that term learning experience because I was sitting here listening to you talk going, was this, how much more difficult or complex was the actual starting to distill this raw sugarcane into rum than you thought it was going to be? Or did you totally understand the process when you started this? Or did you get into this for a month or a year and go, wow, what have I done?
No, very, very lucky. So my original co-founder and I both had unique experiences. And so we combined our technical and practical knowledge. So we knew what we wanted to do immediately. And granted, it was on a very small scale. It was the equivalent of had we opened, like a home brew, but home distilling is not legal in the state. So we had to go the whole full gamut and get a license, even though those first batches were only 30 bottles. It was wonderful from the start because, again, his technical expertise and my hospitality kind of fused into this wonderful magic that made us more popular than I think we expected to be from the beginning. So the goal was to make something that we were proud of and excited, and we had no idea how many people would respond so well. So starting was not hard. Starting is always hard, but that first batch was not the challenge. It was the scaling over the first year, over the next 3 years, and to what we are today. I mean, we used to make 30 bottles of rum a week, and now we make a couple hundred bottles of rum a day, and, have trained a beautiful team of ex-chefs, ex-engineers, football coaches, marketing individuals. And so now our core staff at the distillery brings a lot of talents. And that's also what's helped us grow our product line. Because although we focus on rum, we have a ton of different expressions and seasonal specialties, and they all can be directly linked to a member of our team that brought specific knowledge, either of flavors or recipes. And that's been really exciting.
So how long were you into the process before you realized, wow, this is going to be big? Like you started out really small, making 30 bottles at a time, And then you started getting this good response where like a year, 2 years before you're going, this is going to be way bigger than Jamie thought it was going to be.
Oh, from like the first month, it was way bigger than I ever imagined. Because especially when you're doing something that's so different, making spirits from scratch. Everyone that walked into the distillery that first year was a little incredulous. They were like, "Wait a second, you do this right here? You guys do this?" Like, and yeah, come on back. We'll show you the stills. And at the time, we started with two very small 26-gallon stills that look like they're more designed to steam crabs than to make spirits. And so sometimes people were a little underwhelmed when they saw our setup. But I think it also got people really excited because we took something that was so mysterious and unthinkable and unknowable to so many people, and we made it really accessible. And we showed them every step of the way. Here's how we do this. Here's where we bottle it. Here's every step. And then growing that, it was a very organic process. That's something I'm really proud of, is that we grew based on demand. We never sat around and said, "Oh, we have all this product. I wonder how we're going to sell it to people." It was, they want more, so we're going to make more. We want different recipes. We want to innovate. What started with one rum led to two rums, led to now I think we have something like 12 different expressions. And that's been fun to constantly like impress ourselves, to find areas in the rum market where there's not a certain flavor profile, and then trying to create that in our way. So, even now I think that I'm a little in disbelief, because last year was a really challenging year for us, especially because not only do we make rum, but we are very much focused on hospitality. So when you come to St. Michael's and you come to our distillery, we are going to welcome you in with open arms. We're going to show you every step of the process. We're going to offer you complimentary samples. And so we've been a very warm, inviting part of the fabric of town, but we haven't done that in almost a year. We closed overnight on March 14th of last year, and we still haven't had anyone in our space, aside from staff, since the onset of the pandemic. So while we've definitely pivoted to focusing on other areas of our business like takeout and home delivery and wholesale, the core of what we offer, that rum love that we spread, has been taken away from us. So we had to do other things. We had to find other ways to get our product to market. Luckily, we've expanded our distribution, and last year was a big year for us. We started selling in New York and New Jersey and Florida, which are massive markets.
Yes, they are.
So we're now getting rum to people in a very different way. And so I look forward to the day when we can kind of bring back what we're known for and kind of merge that. And then I think I might be overwhelmed, because then we'll have the best of both worlds, right? We'll be able to serve the hundreds of people that visit the distillery a day, plus people all over the country.
So let me jump back to last March when you had to close your doors to trap. And I watched your 2017 5th anniversary video, what you guys made. And what struck me was you said, I think you were talking to your sister, and you said, yeah, there wasn't really a plan. We didn't have a plan. We just started making rum, and then we just see where it went. And a lot of people, especially a lot of professional business people, would go, "What? No plan? You didn't have a spreadsheet? You didn't have a, Gantt charts about what had to happen and where you were going to go?" So you didn't have a plan, and obviously it's evolved and worked out for you. And something none of us could have ever dreamed of planning for was COVID and this pandemic. So when the enormity of this event started to become obvious and you were making the decision to close your tasting room temporarily, like, what were the first thoughts that went through your mind as you've been working so hard on this business for like 8 years, and all of a sudden you're going, wait a minute, I can't have people in? What was the thought process of you and your team at that moment?
So this time last year, we had just opened New Jersey with a big distributor. And so I was in New Jersey, and we were like, this is our year. This is lucky year number 7. We're expanding to these markets. We're going to be in New York City. This is so massive. And that was the first week of March. And so I was just looking for this straight up, growth. And we had seen growth in the tasting room, year over year. And so I came back and I worked that weekend because I love working in the tasting room. So when I'm not on the road promoting our spirits, I'm right in there with the thick of it. I love people. And we worked that Saturday, and there was a little bit of rumbling about what was going on. There was a big unknown, right? Nobody really saw what was going to happen. We didn't know how long it would be either. But we worked that weekend. We worked Saturday, and we had a very busy day. But I remember everyone was a little on edge because we weren't sure what was coming. And I looked at the team at the end of the day, and I said, that was an okay day, but it wasn't as fun. I was a little nervous. How did you guys feel? And they all said, well, yeah, it was kind of a weird vibe. You know, we're usually very close to people. We touch them a lot. We hand them cups constantly. And I said, you know what? I think we should close tomorrow. And it might be okay on Monday, but let's just take a break. And they all looked at me, and I have a wonderful team of men and women, but that day it happened to be all women. And they said, well, do whatever you want. We're happy to work tomorrow if you think it's safe, but we're also happy to take the day off if you think we should. And I was the first business in town to do that. And I put a sign out that said, basically, we're not sure what's going on, but we're going to close today, and we'll just go play it by ear. And that was the last time we were open. And so the reason I tell that story like that is because it wasn't a thought out decision. It was a gut reaction. It was, I need to keep my team safe, and I need to make sure that whoever comes in here is safe and has fun. And that's
right.
Always the forefront, that we have a safe and healthy workplace, and we have a safe place for people to visit. And so I didn't want to take any risks. So people often think that entrepreneurs are risk takers and that they balance all of these things, and maybe they do, but I'm a very different type of person. I come at this business from an arts background, so I think that I'm an artist first. I also take care of people at my core. So it was just a reaction to what was going on. And for every week, those first couple months, every week, every few days, I was asked to reevaluate, when are you going to open? Are you going to open this weekend? Are you going to open next weekend? And every business in our town was trying to navigate this as well. Our town is 1 mile long and has a ton of businesses, and everyone looks to each other for what to do. And so I had people calling me. I'm also a town commissioner here, so I'm an elected official. And, as we got into the pandemic, I was responsible for making and enforcing regulations, but this was way before government stepped in. But I had a lot of business owners saying, hey, wait, you're closed? Should I be closed? Is it okay if I'm open? And I just said, look, you have to do what's right for you. We're going to do what's right for us. We can afford to close for a day and see what happens. Right. But if you would have told me last year that I'd have to close my tasting room for a month, let alone 12 months, I would have told you I would be worried we'd go out of business. And so I'm very proud that we didn't, and that we managed to struggle and then thrive by doing things differently, right? By saying yes. I have this habit of saying yes to opportunities and to adapting. I think that's really key. So yeah, it wasn't a big decision. I didn't talk it out. I didn't make a spreadsheet. I just did what felt right, and that's what I've continued to do this whole time.
I tell you, I'll share a story with you too, because I've got this idea like for a movie. It's like one of those. You ever see like the movie Love Actually, where you got all the vignettes? I'm just thinking, this pandemic-based movie where it just follows 8 or 10 stories of what was happening, the various businesses, while everything was becoming obvious to us how big this was.
Yeah.
Very same time, the very same days when you're telling your staff, let's take tomorrow off. We're preparing for what was supposed to be the first annual Pour Up the Shore, which was supposed to be April 17th last year. And so a month ahead of time, we were going big, because like you, we've traveled a lot of places. We know a lot of people, and we had arranged for brewers to come in from Key West, Massachusetts, Maine, Ohio, the UK, and literally had a friend up from Florida to brew a beer with Checker Spot in Baltimore. That was done. That was in the can. And the weekend when you were closing your business, our friend Rob, who runs Yorkshire Dales Brewing over in the UK, shameless plug for Rob, he had flown over here, going to New York for a couple days to visit breweries up there, and was getting ready to take the train down to do a beer with a brewer on the Eastern Shore. And he messaged me and he said, what do you think? And I said, I think you should stay in New York, enjoy a few more breweries, and get on a plane out of here while you still can. So while you're saying, wait a minute, we got to close and see what's happening, I'm saying, my friend, get on the plane, get out of here, because I'll use your word, the vibe was really weird. It was really strange. And, so while you're making those decisions, we're making these decisions. And if you had told me it's going to end up being a year and a half before you can have this festival, now I would have said, no. Well, now October 2021. So
I know, and it's wild because, like you say, we all had our schedules full, right? I mean, all we do is travel and work. And even though I was closing the tasting room on the 14th, I was supposed to fly to Louisiana the following week to do my first sales, run of the year, where I visit all our accounts and hang out with our distributor down there and visit our sugar mill.
Wow.
And I remember being on the phone. I remember having the tasting room closed across the street from me, but being on the phone with Louisiana and me and my sales manager down there being like, yeah, I'm still going to come. I mean, I'm fine. I'll be okay. Like, and Louisiana's fine because, right, it hit us in waves. And every day we touch base. And then finally he was like, hey, what's going on there? And I was like, it's weird. He's like, yeah, here too. I don't think you should come. And I was like, me neither. We had all these events and we canceled them, but we all waited because I think also in our industry, we're all used to working very, very hard for longer hours on less sleep under crazy circumstances. And so the hospitality industry was just like, what? We can do anything. And so that natural inclination to toughen up and to work hard and to power through, it was very incongruous for the decisions that we were making to slow down, step back, take it easy. And so for me, luckily, being the leader, that instinct kicked in differently for my team. Because if it's about me, I'm willing to power through and I'm willing to take certain risks for myself. But when it comes to other people that are under my care, that's completely different. So it was no question to close the tasting room. And I thought, when we do open it, I'll be the one. So eventually when we opened our tent outside for Bottles to Go, it was me for months standing out there trying to navigate, talk to people, keep everyone safe, because I didn't want to put anyone in a tricky situation. It's so hard. I mean, we're all just making this up as we go in general. We're throwing the pandemic in and we're like, what do we do?
So interesting. You mentioned your travel and everything. Like for me in 2019, I flew like 60 times. 2020, I think it was 8, and 6 of those were before March. And then all of a sudden you go from this whirling dervish of a life to I'm in the same place every day. For me, it's kind of strange. How's that been for you to like, okay, wait a minute, I'm in St. Michael's pretty much all the time now.
Well, I have to say I love it. I love St. Michael's, so I don't get to spend enough time here when I'm traveling a ton. But yes, it's very strange that I've woken up in the same place every day for a year. For me, I'm constantly in a different city or on the road. But at the same time, my life never really changed in a lot of ways. So yes, I wasn't traveling and I wasn't going out to eat like I normally do all the time. But every day I wake up, walk across the street to the distillery and see the 7 people that I'm used to seeing all the time. My sister, my mother, my head distiller, all of our team. And so I was really lucky in a lot of ways that it didn't seem exactly 2020 wasn't like 2019, but it was a lot like 2017, right? When I was just in the distillery every single day from sunup to sundown. It also goes without saying that we never stopped producing. So although we closed our doors, unlike a restaurant that might close its doors and there's no work to be done, we were still doing manufacturing, packaging, all of that all the time. We did take about 2 or 3 months where we solely produced hand sanitizer, which was like starting a whole new business. And that was overwhelming. And we probably all worked. I mean, we were around the clock. So when everyone was really confused and didn't know what to do with themselves and had a lot of pent up energy and anxiety, we were tackling a whole new project where the demand was intense. So those first months of end of March, April, and May, my world was wild. Making hand sanitizer took over every second of our being. Then when the demand was satisfied, we got back to making spirits. Then we got back to doing curbside and deliveries and things like that. And so it was a bit of a different experience for us. I wouldn't say it was easier, but it was easier. Does that make sense? Like we had purpose, we knew what to do, whereas everyone else was a little floundering, like, I can't do what I normally do. What do I do? Distillers were given a gift that we were able to help out and find purpose during those first couple months.
Yeah, it's interesting because my son, Jason, he works part-time for Charm City Mead Works.
Yes.
He did exactly the same thing. Flipped the script, started making hand sanitizer, lots of hand sanitizer, So how did that come about for you guys? Did somebody contact you and say, hey, can you do this? Or did you say, wait a minute, what can we do right now to help this? How did that come about for you guys?
So a little bit of both. So for me, I didn't think about it at all because I use pot stills, and pot stills are not designed to make a high proof spirit that would be adequate for the strength needed for hand sanitizer. But I have partners in this project now. 4 years ago, the team at Grey Wolf joined us, and they distill their vodka, gin, and other spirits in our space. Yes, Timber Gin. And so that team is Megan and RB Wolfensberger, and they have a column still that they make their vodka and gin on. And so I think the wheels started turning in RB and Megan's head way before I would have thought of it, because I didn't have the equipment necessary. Right. And then one of the local counties in Maryland contacted Grey Wolf and said, hey, can you make hand sanitizer? And RB said, yes. So he approached me, and to be honest, I was a little skeptical. I was like, how are we going to do this? Because it's not that easy. You don't just flip a switch, right? You flip the switch and then you find new providers of hydrogen peroxide, glycerin, giant plastic containers with pump handles, like all these things that I don't like plastic containers. And it was wild, but I saw the need. So I'm more likely as a person and as a business owner to say yes in response to something that's needed than I am to say, hey, I have a good idea. Why don't we do this? So my strength is in saying yes and then going, let's figure this out. So I said, let's do it. We figured out what we were going to do, how we were going to combine, the heads and tails of the rum run that we normally discard, run that through the vodka still, then blend it. We got a recipe, we got guidance. It took some federal red tape cutting to even let us do it. We got an FDA permit. And then the demand was so overwhelming that every day Megan and I would wake up to 50 plus voicemails, hundreds of emails, and sift through who needs it the most. Okay, this pediatrician's going to the top of the list. This nursing home we have to get a few gallons to. So it was wild. It was one of the wildest things we've ever done.
When this is all over, we're all going to sit down and tell our war stories around the fire.
I'm going to forget it all, I need all the new memories of joy to come in.
So of all this in the pandemic, what would you say was the biggest challenge for you and your team?
I think just unknown. When you start a business, there's a lot of unknowns, but as you start climbing through, you start having predictability. And so projections and planning and knowing what we're going to do from one day to the next, we were just starting to get into a groove in 2019 of, we know what's happening at the distillery. Every day isn't going to be, chaos, roller coaster. And 2020 was a roller coaster, right? We had highs and lows. We went through a lot, and I think just not knowing and not having any idea what the next day or the next week or the next month would be like. But then again, we were primed to kind of thrive under those circumstances. That's who we are. But I think that was probably the biggest challenge overall is the not knowing. And then of course we are in St. Michael's, and so as soon as people were comfortable to leave their homes, which happened a little sooner than maybe they were supposed to, in late April and May, the town was flooded with people on the streets, and there wasn't much for them to do. Right. So ask my team what their number one job is when they're working, and it's to say yes to everything that the customer needs. Would you like to go on a private tour right now? Absolutely, we'll make it happen. So now they had to say no. People would ring the doorbell. Can I use your restroom? Can I come inside? Can I take a tour? And so I think it's really hard for us to say no to people because we want to say yes. Right. And that's been a challenge.
So other than the hand sanitizer production, what unexpected opportunity may have presented itself to Lyon Rum during the pandemic that is not a temporary stopgap thing, but it is something that is now part of your future that maybe you didn't foresee before the pandemic occurred?
Yeah, well, I have two. Okay. So the big one is thank you, Governor Hogan, for allowing distilleries to temporarily deliver spirits to the doorsteps of every Maryland resident.
And let's make that permanent, legislature.
Yes, exactly. So that's something that was available under the state of emergency to both help us sell our product and keep people safe. And so we started making home deliveries, and we took it to the limit, like we do with everything. And my amazing, hardworking, rum running sister drove over 1,100 orders between May and December to the doorsteps of Maryland residents. And we go to every zip code. We offer free delivery. We guarantee it within 5 days. And there's only like a $25 minimum. And so all you basically have to do is get a bottle of rum and you're going to get it to your door. So that was so successful and so much fun that we actually bought a rum van. We have a super cute little van that's wrapped. It looks just like Lyon. It's got a big stripe on the side and it says Rum Runner. And so we have put thousands and thousands of miles on our new van delivering. So we're trying to make that permanent. I've been lobbying the last couple of weeks in Maryland legislature, in the House and Senate, to make this permanent. There's definitely some trepidation on the part of lawmakers to make any COVID provisions permanent, but we're hoping for at least a 2 or 3 year sunset because, one, it's going to take a while to recoup the retail sales that we're used to. And also, furthermore, there's many people that aren't going to be comfortable going out to stores or coming to our tasting room for some time. And so I think recognizing that is another avenue to make everyone happy, you know, to keep people employed, keep customers happy. But the thing that I was probably the most hesitant to, because we were thrilled to load up rum and take it to your door, even if you're in Cumberland, we will drive it to you.
I don't want to stop. You're literally driving rum all the way to Western Maryland.
Oh yeah, we've done Cumberland in the snow, Southern Maryland in the sunshine, and we're smart about it because we also have our own wholesale division. So my sister Jessie, she runs our wholesale, which is over 200 accounts across the state. So when an order comes in, you know, for a bottle of white rum to Cumberland, we don't drop everything and leave that day. We plan it out over the next 5 days, and then we can visit others. Sometimes you'll see us post on social media like, hey, we're coming to Hagerstown or we're coming to Leonardtown. And so gives people an excuse. They still don't believe it. They'll call me and say, you deliver all the way to Annapolis? And I'm like, we deliver all the way to Cumberland. So yes, we love that. It was a novelty at first. It is not without challenge. She can tell you stories of navigating wild dogs and animals and driveways in the snow and people not being home when they're supposed to and all of that. But it's been amazing. It definitely saved our retail segment hugely. But virtual tastings. This is my plant-filled living room that I'm in, and I was really reticent to do any kind of Instagram Live or Facebook Live or tastings in the first couple months when everyone was doing it. I feel like I was inundated with virtual tastings and cocktail classes, and I didn't want to attend them. So I imagine none of my customers wanted to go to them either. But a few months in, probably like midsummer, I was approached by a customer who really wanted to share a rum tasting with their staff, their team. So we sent out these little boxes of rum flights. You know, we can deliver them to them. So we delivered everybody a 6-pack of rum, and then I zoomed in and walked through a tasting, and I could not believe how much fun I had. Everyone said it was the best Zoom they'd ever done. And so now I've probably done close to 100 virtual tastings, cocktail classes, themed classes, Rum 101. It's been amazing. So I love that. And I think that we will definitely continue it forever because it's a great way to connect with people that aren't with you. And it's so amazing to come from my living room into your living room or kitchen and teach you how to make a beautiful rum cocktail in the comfort of your own home. So empowering people to be their own mixologists has been great. And then as of last week, we actually have a partner in Florida that is shipping our rum to 40 states for the first time ever. So now I could lead a rum tasting with people in California and Ohio and Texas all at the same time right here from St. Michael. So that is going to continue, and I love it. I have so much fun.
That sounds, pandemic aside, that sounds like a pretty good year that you guys have had.
It was, right? It was. That's why I say, like, there's, you know, and I don't want to gloss over the things that were hard, but you have to look for the opportunities and you have to celebrate the successes. And that's something that we don't do enough. And
Right.
So everyone's so anxious to get back to normal. But what is normal? No year is normal. No month is normal. There's good and bad. And 2020 was a hard year and it was devastating for so many people. But there were devastating things that have happened, every year of my
Yep.
life. And so
Yep.
I think this was just a collective tragedy, and it hit our industry um, disproportionately hard because we thrive on gathering and
Yes.
closeness and being together and
Yep.
consumption. But it's okay because people didn't stop eating and drinking.
Yep.
They just did it in a different way. And so we're going to meet them where they are, right? Because that's what we do.
Exactly. Exactly. You say it's like with us, everything we do is about bringing people together. And since March of 2020, that's the one thing you're not supposed to do. So you have to find new ways to do the things that you were trying to do before. And unfortunately for us, it's all about bringing people together. So we kind of had to just stand down and be patient and that sort of thing. But it sounds like you guys took full advantage of what was available to you to grow your business. So what else might lie in the future for Lyon Rum? You're distributing basically nationwide now. You got the Rum Runner van out there, running all over Maryland. I have to tell you, we have to hook my son up with your sister, and we need to film a documentary. We need to put him in the van with his cameras and sound recording and just take a roadie with her, because I think this would be a very popular video. I think people would really like watching it.
Our greatest regret is that she didn't keep a daily log of the crazy incidences that happened in the Rum Runner van. Nothing scandalous and nothing devastating, but just people are so funny. And people during a pandemic are quirky and amazing and wonderful and hilarious. And the notes and the gifts and the things she navigated were unbelievable, really.
When you spend a lot of time on the road, you see things. You see people being people. And a lot of it, yes, a lot of it should be shared and some of it shouldn't. But
well, and being in a van full of rum, sometimes she's driving as much as 400 miles a day. Like I'm sure things just get weird just with her in the van. So we joke that she needs a GoPro, but I think she'd love a friend. She's always trying to take somebody that's working at the distillery with her. I'm like, no, he's doing a fermentation today. He can't come with you and hang out. She's like, but I need a friend. I need a buddy on the road trip.
If she's willing to have the day mostly filmed and recorded, Jay will get in the van with her and go wherever she wants to go. I feel very safe speaking for him that he would jump in a second. Yeah, he would jump in. Yes, there you go. 2 thumbs up from the producer here. So what other projects might lie ahead for Lyon's Rum?
Who knows, Rick? I mean, that's the thing about Lyon is that we are open to so many things. We've definitely got some options on the table. A lot of people come to me with ideas. And so in the past, I think people in this industry know that I'm someone that you can come to because I know a lot of people and I love connecting people. For the last 6 years, I helped found the Maryland Distillers Guild 6 years ago. And I've been the president for this entire time. I'm about to pass that crown to someone else. But because of that, I get to know everyone's stories and challenges and opportunities. But it seems like in the last few months, I've had a lot of people approaching me, not to connect them, but to see if I want to partner up and do some new projects. So there's some things that, we're looking into, but really the focus is to continue to grow Lyon and to continue to really hone in on connecting with our rum lovers. We do have a really wonderful project that we are privileged to be part of, helping a nonprofit in the Caribbean start a very small scale rum distillery that will fund sea turtle conservation. So we are not tied to them in any legal way. We've simply been lending our knowledge, and we've traveled down a couple of times. The pandemic kind of slowed that, but they're building a really neat aquaculture and distilling project that will really kind of seamlessly bridge a lot of things in their community. So we're just open to ideas. My head distiller's name is Brett Steigerwatt, and he is an amazing rum maker and an even better person. And he likes to say that rum can save the world. It can change the world for good. And so we want to find ways to give back and to use our spirits both through the sale of the spirits, which can directly fund projects, and through just our platform to really highlight some of the organizations that are working hard to make this world a better place. However we can do that, that's important. So I think you're going to see more in the philanthropic arena. We're still not a massive company, so we don't have the power to write big checks just yet, but we can we can raise awareness, we can sell special edition rums, and we can definitely roll up our sleeves and help out our friends that are doing some really important work.
See, we're very like-minded to you, and excuse me for 1 second if I can find it here. We do a lot of altruistic sort of things through our various sites. And since I'm mainly a beer guy, we even got shirts printed up here. If I can find the right logo here, it says "Beer to the Rescue."
Yes, yes.
Do this to raise money. We support the only jail in the world that has a zoo at it in Key West, Florida. They actually have a zoo at the prison that has over 150 animals of all stripes. And you might think, oh, it'd be great to be a kid growing up in Key West because you've got every bit of marine life you could possibly have at your disposal. But the closest, animal life is 150 miles away.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and the jail is raised like 12 feet up because of flooding and everything like that from hurricanes. But underneath the jail, they have a zoo. It's a petting zoo for the kids. It's an animal rescue for a wide variety of animals that have been abandoned or abused, whatever. And it's a rehab project for the inmates. So the ones that are going to be released soon, they get to go outside and work with the animals and that kind of deal. And in fact, we'll be doing a podcast with the lady who runs that tomorrow. And then we also are supporting another brewery in Oxford, England, of all places, called Tap Social Movement, where all of their employees are ex-cons or guys out on work release. And they help to reintegrate them into society after they've served their sentences. It's an amazing program because in the first 2.5 years of the program, their recidivism rate was 0, whereas the average is 50%. So we're trying to leverage what we're doing in the alcohol world with social causes too. Try to make it a better place, man. I applaud you guys for doing the same thing, man. That's really awesome of you.
Well, and to you as well. And I didn't even know about that. So that's really great. I think it can't go without saying that we have challenges in our industry, and not everyone thinks that, we celebrate craft beer and craft spirits and local wines, but a lot of people don't see that. All they see through is to the problems, the health and societal problems that abuse of alcohol can create. And so I don't want to, you need to acknowledge that. So obviously responsible drinking is very important, but also if you don't have a problem, it can add a lot of great value to your life. I mean, there's so many ceremonial uses of alcohol across cultures. It can really, it can be a wonderful, wonderful thing. And so that discord is going to always exist between people who find benefits from the use of alcohol and people who don't. So what I like to see is our ability to be part of our community. Yeah. And it's not about the consumption. It's about what we do when we're not making and drinking alcohol, the things that we support, the platforms that are important to us. In St. Michael's, when the Little League dons their, uniforms for the year, the sponsors on the back are Lyon Rum, Eastern Shore Brewing, St. Michael's Winery, Carpenter Street Saloon. And so that's to say that we are real businesses with real people that love our communities and want to do what's best for them, right? We're not just trying to intoxicate people. And so I think that I think it's a wonderful way to use our platform to show what we care about.
Yeah, and I always refer to myself as, and people laugh when they first say it, but then I'll explain it to them. I said, I'm a cultural drinker. I like to travel to places like yours and hear the stories about how this came about and why you use the ingredients that you use and why you use the processes that you use. Because why did rum come about? Because it's tough to have good, safe drinking water when you're on ships, sailing around the place. But a distilled spirit is something you can drink and not have to worry about getting dysentery and all other manner of maladies. And people don't understand how these beverages came to be in the first place. There's a reason they evolved, and the reason that they're still so popular today. And I think it's important to point out that the vast majority of people who imbibe don't do it to excess.
Well, exactly. And while you don't need to drink alcohol to enjoy anything, of course, I think it's very hard to experience and enjoy a culture or a place in the world without imbibing food and drink. So that drink might be alcoholic, it might be non-alcoholic, but if you go to another country, and you don't partake in the things that the people there eat and drink and absorb, and the music and all of it, it's all part of culture. So if you are curious about the world and you do want to experience what life is like all over this amazing planet, then I think the things that we imbibe are key to that learning. So yeah, I love that.
Well, Jamie, it's been wonderful talking to you this morning. It's been great. It's really exciting to see how this little operation that started 8 years ago in St. Michael's is now shipping rum all over the state and all over the country. Really glad as a fellow Eastern Shore person that things are going well and we're getting through this pandemic, and we can, at some point in the not too distant future, some of our buses could roll into St. Michael's and we could actually bring people to tour your facility in Eastern Shore Brewing and the wine store and the marvelous Carpenter Street Saloon. I love that place, and it's been far too long since I've been able to get there. But we look forward to doing that. We thank you for your time. And any last words you'd like to leave us with?
No, thank you. Thank you for celebrating the makers of this region. We are grateful and just happy to be part of this community.
Well, we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks for stopping by. Been a pleasure. Everybody out there at Delmarva Craft, all you people who live in Baltimore, Washington, D.C., cross the bridge. Don't just drive straight to the ocean. Maybe turn north and visit some cool places there. Maybe stop in St. Michael's and Easton and Cambridge and visit all the great people who are there like Jamie. And until next time, this is Rick Carter, Delmarva Craft.